Hey folks, and welcome to iWizard. So here's the deal today. I got tagged by my good buddy Scot over at Bald BookTuber, so I'm apparently it. It is my turn to do the tag, to answer the questions. So we're going to go through these 20 some odd life questions, and I figured this might be a good way for me to introduce myself to a lot of my new subscribers and tell you a little bit more about who I am. Let's do it. All right, Jordan here. So let's get into these questions. So I've never done one of these BookTuber tag things before. I generally find them to be a little bit awkward, and this channel I like to focus on the books and things like that primarily. But you know, my good buddy Scot tagged me, so I figure, who am I to duck out of this? And for those of you who don't know, these tags are like, they're a set of questions that someone came up with, and then you, the booktuber, answer the questions, and at the end you're supposed to tag someone else, and they have to answer the questions. And so I'll let you know at the end who I have decided to tag. All right, let's give it a shot. Question number 1. What is your channel about? So this is obviously a booktube show called iWizard. It's dedicated to fantasy, sci-fi, and horror literature primarily. I would say I developed a love of these genres rather late in life. I'm a big philosophy and classics buff, so I used to only read that kind of stuff. In fact, when I first started my YouTube account, I was doing a show called the Western Canon Podcast. So if you're interested in learning about the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Oresteia or Medea or ancient Greek philosophy, Plato and Aristotle, you can go back and watch those episodes. I think they're pretty good. But I started this new channel because over time, I really developed a love for fantasy and sci-fi and horror, and I felt like I had discovered this whole new world that I'd been ignoring my whole life, and I came to really fall in love with these stories. So in short, I would describe this channel as we are outsiders when it comes to these genres. At least I am. I'm a philosophy and literature guy. My wife is a scientist. We're coming at these books from a different perspective, I guess I would say. There are a lot of booktubers out there who cover fantasy and sci-fi, and they all do something different. So I realize that, and there's a lot of booktubers out there I really respect. But I feel like we really try to get at the substance of these books. I think we just look at these books in a different way. So if you watch someone like Philip Chase's channel, his expertise is Anglo-Saxon literature and history, Celtic and Norse mythology and languages, and Beowulf and medieval literature and all that stuff. And because of that expertise, he can read someone like John Gwynne. He can really bring it to life by pointing out all of the different symbols and names and places and geography and the history. Whereas I think I take a more philosophical, psychological, literary criticism, intellectual history approach. My wife also has kind of her own approach. She kind of comes at it. She's a working scientist. She has her PhD in like the physics of the climate and things like that. So when she reviews something like The Expanse, she's able to talk about the physics. Or right now, for example, she's reading the newest Neil Stephenson book, and she's going to look at the science in that. And the other thing I would say is that I've always been a storyteller. So and I speak for a living. That's what I do. I'm a teacher, so I get up and I talk for a living, and I feel like I'm pretty good at that. So this channel just gives me more of a chance to reach an even wider audience, and I'm basically doing something that feels really natural to me, something that I love to do. Question number 2, how old are you? I am 34 years old. I'll be 35 in September, so that's why I have so much gray in my beard. Question number 3, what is your relationship status? I have been happily married for 11 years, for over 11 years, and that has just been a blast, and it's the best part of my life, to be honest with you. Question number 4, did you go to college, and what is your occupation? Yes, I got my bachelor's degree in philosophy from SUNY Binghamton, and then I got a second bachelor's degree in English literature. I think I had to take like 6 or 7 extra courses to earn that because I had all of my main requirements completed. So I have one bachelor's in English and one bachelor's in philosophy, and then I got a master's degree, a teaching degree in English. And so I've been teaching English and philosophy at the high school level for the past 8 years. And I do love my job. I feel very lucky and fortunate to do something that I love and to do a job that requires me to read every day, to read great books. Where are you from? Question number 5. And where do you live? Well, my parents were in the Navy, so we moved around a lot. I was born in Groton, in a military hospital, actually. I've lived in Florida, South Carolina, New York, Massachusetts. I even lived in Cleveland for a summer because my wife was doing an internship at NASA Glenn. But I went to middle school and high school in Connecticut. And so when I go back to visit my family, Connecticut just always feels like home to me. That's where I went to middle school and high school, and that's where I formed, I think, the kind of strongest memories of my childhood. But for the past 6 years, we've been living and working in Massachusetts, or as I like to call it, Taxachusetts. This is where my wife is from. My wife is from Western Massachusetts, and so we both live and work right outside of Boston. I'm so close to Boston that I could ride my bike into Cambridge if I wanted to. Question number 6: looking back, what would you have told your 10-year-old self? Well, I would probably say, to be honest, take yourself more seriously. I didn't begin taking learning and knowledge and school seriously until I got older. And so I'm constantly thinking about how much more I could have learned if I had a different attitude, I guess, back then about some of that stuff, especially academics. When I was younger, I just thought of myself as not really a school person. And so I wonder what I could have accomplished had I learned more earlier. Tell us about your family. Okay. So getting personal here. So I have a rather complicated family, and they actually live all over the place. So my mom and my stepdad, as I said, live in Connecticut. I have 2 little brothers. One of them, Everett, is studying kinesiology at Mississippi State University, and the other one, Michael, is a senior in high school, and he is going to the University of Southern Maine. He'll be wrestling there. I don't know what he's majoring in yet. My dad and my stepmom are retired. They live in South Carolina, and his 2 daughters from his previous marriage, Rachel and Sarah, they're my half-sisters technically, but not by blood because I've never actually met my biological father. My dad married my mom and adopted me, but then obviously they got divorced. So let's see, very complicated family structure. I have an aunt, Fawn, that's my mom's sister, and an Uncle Paul, and they both now live in Mexico. She's a professional artist, and he is a professional writer, and they have a son who is going to school down there. My mom's other sister, Laura, lives in Costa Rica, and she's like working and doing pottery down there. My Uncle Perry lived in Hawaii in a shack for a long time. He's a carpenter and a contractor, and I think now he lives in Grants Pass, Oregon. I have 2 stepsisters who both live in Florida, and so, as I said, my family is super complicated. Unlike my wife's family, most of whom live in Massachusetts, so her family is a little bit more sensical, is a little bit more traditional. My family is all over the place, lots of divorces, lots of interesting little separations, and everyone going their own way. Question number 8, what is your favorite holiday? What is your favorite holiday? So I wish this weren't such a cliche answer, but I have to say Christmas. I am tempted to say something like Thanksgiving or July 4th or something like that. I would also love to say Halloween because I love Halloween, but Halloween is so short. It's one night and I usually have to work all day. Even though my wife and I do watch scary movies all throughout the month of October leading up to Halloween, but in terms of the actual holiday itself, I don't know that I could say Halloween. I don't know. There's just something about Christmas. I'm off of school for 2 weeks. It's cold in Massachusetts in December, but not so cold. It's really January and February you have to watch out for in Massachusetts. So it's usually crisp. It's cold. It's chilly, but the weather's not too bad. You've got these fluffy snowflakes coming down. We usually, the night before Christmas, Christmas Eve, that is, we spend that at my in-laws' house, and then we go to my mom's house for Christmas Eve. We play games, we eat seafood pasta, we have a gingerbread house making competition where the neighbors come over and we lay all the materials out and see who can make the best gingerbread house, and then we vote on it and the winner gets a prize. It's really fun. We usually do like Yankee swap, and we drink and watch movies all night Christmas Eve until late at night. Then after my little brothers go to bed, my mom puts the presents under the tree. Sorry, those of you who still believe in Santa Claus. And we fill the stockings together. And then we get up in the morning, obviously, and open presents. And that is just so much fun, drinking coffee and watching people's faces light up as they get the presents that I got them. After that, we go to my in-laws, and we do Christmas at my wife's aunt and uncle's house with the cousins and with Graham and Nikki's brother Jonathan and my mother-in-law, and we eat lasagna and ham, and then we do presents, and then we go back to Nikki's mom's house and we do presents again. And so I just love that spirit of joy. I also love that for the next several days we watch Christmas movies and eat ham. We watch rock documentaries, and we slowly eat our candy and nibble on the Christmas desserts, and we get to play with our new toys that we got. I just love the ugly Christmas sweaters and the coziness and the aesthetic. It's just such a beautiful holiday with the tree, the Christmas tree that you get to decorate, and everyone's in good cheer. And sometimes there's football on, and my brother-in-law and I will drink bourbon and watch tough guy movies for the next few days after Christmas. It's just such a great time, and it really just feels good to get people presents and celebrate and just be joyous and not worry about anything and just celebrate as a family. Question number 9, what is your dream vacation? So sorry, this is going to be kind of another long-winded one because I actually wanted to show you some pictures. If I had no budget, I would love to go back to Ireland and Scotland. I would like to go back and do a more thorough tour of those countries. We went, Nikki and I went and did a 2-week tour of Ireland, England, and Scotland, so the British Isles, and that was in 2018. And we spent like 10 of those days touring Ireland and the Scottish Highlands. We flew into Dublin, we hung out there, we went pub hopping, we rented a car, we got maps, and we just drove all around. I think we only used our GPS one time during the entire trip. Our goal was to get around just using maps, not to have our phones leading us around. We really wanted to think about the country. We wanted to get the lay of the land for ourselves. We wanted to really get to know the place. So we took our rental car and we went to Galway first, which is gorgeous. And then we went to Sligo. That is where the poet Yeats was born. We actually went to see his grave. And what's awesome about renting a car is that you can just kind of get lost in Europe. If you see something interesting, if you pass a castle or some ruins or a little town that looks mysterious and really historic, you can just kind of go explore. Like I remember at one point we got a tad lost and we were about to pull over to look at the map when we came across this little town by the sea, and there were ruins and historical sites everywhere, and there were really no tourists or anything around. So we pulled over at the ruins of this pretty ancient church, and there was this graveyard there, and it was right by the sea, and it was just one of the most beautiful places I've been. And it turns out the site led to this trail above these cliffs overlooking the sea, and it was just really beautiful. So what else? We went to Giant's Causeway, and we were like the only people there, which was incredible. And we went to Corricarec with the Corricarec Bridge, and then we did Belfast after that. And man, Belfast was cool because we got to go to the Titanic Museum there, and we ate dinner on a barge, and we went to this great rum bar. It was fantastic. Then the next place we went was Edinburgh, Scotland, which of course is a famous literary city. We got to go to Diagon Alley, well, the street that was the inspiration for Diagon Alley. We did like a literary pub crawl in Edinburgh. We toured the catacombs. It was just a blast. Actually, the best meal I have ever had in my entire life was probably at this restaurant in Edinburgh. It was called Forest and Chatter. Just a blast. But we only really spent a day and a half in Edinburgh, and then what we did was we went north and explored the Highlands from there. We went to Inverness because I was trying to go to places that I recognized from Macbeth, which is probably my favorite Shakespeare play. So we went to Cawdor Castle, and then we actually took a boat out on Loch Ness, which of course is where Nessie, the Loch Ness monster, lives. And then we ate at a restaurant overlooking Loch Ness, which is just, it means Lake Ness. It was incredible. Then we went on a distillery tour in the Highlands, and we got to see how that delicious, peaty Speyside whiskey gets made. And then we flew into London after that, and we toured London. We did the London Eye, and we saw the Globe Theatre, and we did all sorts of touristy stuff in London. I believe we saw the Book of Mormon there too, which was awesome. And then we ended the trip by hiking through the Chilterns, which is one of the most beautiful and quaint places I've ever been. And then we spent the last day of our trip in Oxford, which was pretty fun. We went to Oxford College, we went to bookstores and the botanical gardens. Anyhow, the point of me telling you all of this is that I had a blast on this trip, and my only regret was that I felt like there was so much more to see and do. And so my dream vacation, I guess, would to just be to do Ireland, Scotland, and maybe the Orkney Islands and just spend a couple of months there. Hey, if money is no option, and that was the point of that question, I would love to just go to Ireland and Scotland and just spend the summer exploring, because I had so much fun. And a lot of my ancestry comes from, I did one of those 23andMe DNA tests, and apparently, besides being Ashkenazi Jewish, I am kind of Irish and Scottish. So that was interesting to find out. So I would love to go back there and spend like an entire summer. Okay, number 10, name your biggest pet peeves. Okay. I have a bunch of pet peeves, but my biggest pet peeve is probably this thing that people do, and it's so incredibly annoying, where I'll be walking around downtown and I will see someone coming. It could be a group of people or just one or two people, and they take up the entire sidewalk and they're coming right at you and they make no attempt to move. The reason that bothers me is that I'm really polite and I try to be self-aware as a citizen out in public. So when I'm at the grocery store, for example, I'm super mindful. I'm like, oh geez, is my cart in your way? Or oops, am I blocking the aisle, right? I always travel on the right side of the grocery store aisles. I try to make space for people. I try to be really aware about my surroundings, but there are a huge number of people out there who will just take up the entire aisle. People will stand in the middle of a grocery store aisle with their fat butts and their cart blocking the entire aisle. And you'll be standing there waiting for them to move, and they're staring at soup or something like that, and they don't see you. They don't move. They're not even aware of where they are. And so I'll, try to be really polite, and I'll clear my throat to get them to move out of the aisle. I will say, excuse me. And a lot of times they still don't move, even when they realize that you're standing right there waiting for them to move, because we both have shopping to do. So, you'll just see like a giant family and they'll be walking slowly Red Rover style down the sidewalk or on a boardwalk or something like that, and nobody moves. The whole family will just come at you in a line, and they will expect you to like go around them by walking in the street or like cling to the side of a building like you're trying to avoid getting run over by a subway car. I just hate that so much. So in other words, I hate how self-involved and oblivious a lot of people can be in public, and that lack of empathy and that lack of self-awareness, that is really my pet peeve. Sorry for the soapbox rant. Okay, number 11, what book changed your life? So I'm going to have to say David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. This isn't your favorite book, it's what book changed your life. So I got into Dickens as an adult. I got into him after high school, and I've said this before on the channel, but I wasn't the biggest reader in high school. But after high school, I went to the library and I took out some Dickens novels, and Dickens was the first author to really open up that whole world of reading for me. He was the first author that made me want to stay lost in a book. I was tempted originally to say Great Expectations because that was the first Dickens novel I read, but I'm going to say David Copperfield because after I read Great Expectations and I was just utterly floored by it, I fell in love with the characters. I loved that gothic aspect of the book, the love story, the coming of age tale. I loved how well developed and alive and compassionate and three-dimensional Dickens characters were. So I read David Copperfield right after Great Expectations, and I've got to tell you, at the time, I wasn't accustomed to reading these thick, chunky books. David Copperfield is a really long book, but I just blew through David Copperfield. I couldn't get enough of it, and I was just floored by it. Dickens is better than any other author I've ever read at recreating what it's like to be a child, recreating that experience of childhood, of coming of age. And David Copperfield, by the way, is Dickens' most autobiographical novel. It's basically his story. And after I read it, I just remember thinking to myself, okay, the whole game has changed. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to pursue this. I want my career and my life to have to do with books. I want to be surrounded by books. I've never been this moved before by an author, and I remember that really changed my life. And that's when I majored in philosophy and English so that I could keep reading books. I wasn't really even thinking about the future. I was just thinking, what can I do so that I can keep reading? And so Dickens really did change the game for me. All right, number 12, what simple invention improved the world? Probably penicillin. Thank you, Alexander Fleming. Probably the invention of the discovery of penicillin. All right, number 13, favorite movies/TV shows. All right, so I'm not saying that these are the capital B best shows ever made, but I'll say that these are just some of my favorites, my favorite TV shows and movies. So for TV, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, definitely. The Office, Daria, Friends, The Expanse, The Twilight Zone, Game of Thrones, Battlestar Galactica. There's this fantastic new show called Severance that I really like, but that's only one season in, and so we'll see if that one ends up being a lasting favorite. Okay, so for movies, I am just going to list out some of my favorites. I have them here. Lost in Translation, Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park, Good Will Hunting, 2001: A Space Odyssey, High Noon, I think is one of the best Western films ever made. The original Star Wars movies, Eric Rohmer's films, all of them. No Country for Old Men, White Christmas, I watch that every year. Rushmore, that is a Wes Anderson film. I love Rushmore. The Trip, My Fair Lady, I've watched that a million times. The Truman Show, Gattaca, pretty much anything by Woody Allen. And let's add Groundhog Day onto that list. Anyways, I definitely could go on and I could make a bigger list, but we have to move on. Question number 14, describe yourself using 3 fictional characters. So this is a very interesting question. I am probably one part Frank Bascom from Richard Ford's amazing Bascom series, Bascom novels. And I'm specifically talking about his books, The Sports Writer, which is the first book in the series, and Independence Day, which is one of the best books I've ever read. And I actually think they're 2 of the best novels ever written. Ford is an amazing writer. He's the kind of writer who Richard Ford can make anything entertaining. So the main character of this series, his name is Frank Bascom, and in Independence Day, he is a realtor. That's what he does for a living, and he's basically just taking stock of his life, and the entire novel is this guy just going around as a realtor, doing his thing. He lives in Haddam, New Jersey, and then he goes on a trip with his son to the basketball and baseball Hall of Fames, and he takes this car trip with his son, and that's the entire book. It's riveting. Yeah, you'll be glued to it. He's a beautiful writer, very poetic. So Frank Bascom would be one part of my personality. I've definitely got a little bit of Howard Rourke in me. Howard Rourke from The Fountainhead. I don't think I'm obviously as noble or as heroic as Howard Rourke, but we do think in a very similar fashion. Though I don't think I'm as rigid or as inflexible as Howard Rourke. But I, like Rourke, care deeply about principle, about logic, about integrity, and I just have a kind of a gut level distaste for groupthink and coercion in the same way that Howard Rourke does. And then I would say, lastly, I am probably David from David Copperfield. Speaking of David Copperfield, I am a lot like David. So David Copperfield, Frank Bascom, and then Howard Rourke. I'm probably a split between those three. Question number 15. What was your dream job? What was your dream job? Not what is it now, what was it? Well, when I was a teenager, probably I wanted to be a musician. I was in a rock band from my junior year of high school until I was probably 24 or 25. My band won the Yukon Battle of the Bands 2 years in a row. We were a blues band. And then I later formed an indie / alternative rock band with my friends called People Sounds. You can look that up if you're interested. I think some of our songs are pretty good, although some of our best songs, we never actually recorded them. So that is definitely what I wanted to do when I was a teenager and when I was kind of in my early 20s. Question number 16. If magic was real, what spell would you learn first? So this is going to make me sound like a total creep, I know. But I would probably, in all honesty, if I'm being honest, I would probably do some sort of invisibility spell or some invisibility cloaking thing. I just think that invisibility is one of the most versatile powers or magical abilities you can have. You can use it to pretty much do anything. I'm just hoping that I wouldn't be like the shepherd, like the shepherd from Plato's Republic, from the Ring of Gyges, who uses it to do really bad things, or Gollum or something like that. I'm hoping that I would use it to do good, although power corrupts, and I suppose that the power of invisibility would definitely corrupt for sure. You'd probably find yourself after a week or two sneaking behind cash registers and just taking a little money out, or going to the bank and just adding an extra zero to your balance. But that's probably, to be honest, what I would choose. Okay, share a favorite childhood memory. It's either got to be the vacations I took to Key West with my dad when I was younger, or the vacation that we took to Montana. We went to Glacier National Park for a week and hiked and saw all there was to see, and took a canoe out on a lake and petted mountain goats. It was pretty awesome. If it's not either of those, it could be after my parents got divorced, living with my mom, just the two of us in this little duplex in Groton, Connecticut. I know that doesn't seem like a good memory, and we certainly didn't have a lot of money, but I was in 5th grade, and I just remember that I made so many great friends there. I was constantly playing outside, skateboarding, exploring, fighting, getting in trouble. Our apartment, our duplex, was right across the street from this Civil War defensive fortification, this battlefield place, and we used to go there every day. It was called Fort Griswold. We would ride our bikes there and play football, and it was just this moment in my life where I had this rambling, independent kind of Huck Finn style childhood, and I have really fond memories of that. What is your favorite social media platform and why? I mean, I hate them all, right? They're ruining our society. But if I have to choose, probably Discord, because my experience with it has been the least toxic experience, and I feel like I've made some new friends on there, especially Mike's Books Discord, and it seems to be the social media platform that gives you the most control over how you interact with it. So yeah, probably Discord. Question number 19, if you could pick any book character, who would you spend the day with? Probably Hadrian Marlowe from Christopher Rocchio's Sun Eater series. I feel like he and I would get along really well together and become pals. And I know we'd have a lot to talk about, because Hadrian, I think one of the things that gravitated me toward that series is we have very similar outlooks, and we have a very similar way that we think about things. And so probably Hadrian Marlowe. What is your spirit animal? Okay, so this is going to make me sound like a tool, but I'm going to say the bald eagle, because I love and care deeply about freedom. And I do think of myself as a patriot in my own idiosyncratic way. And I just would love to be able to soar free and roam free and just swoop down and catch my prey. That'd be pretty awesome. Number 21, question 21, what old person thing do you do? Well, the straight answer is too many to count. My wife says that I carry around paper towels wherever I go in the apartment. I carry them with me everywhere. I don't know if that's true, but I do that sometimes. And she calls them my old man rags. So, but I would say if I got to choose, I would say that it's probably my taste in books. And my traditional values. People tell me that I'm the old man that yells at kids to get off of their lawn or yells at the clouds. So that's probably true. That's probably the most old manish thing about me is my entire being. But you know what? My wife also has an old person thing that she does so that I can get her back for telling me that I shouldn't have old man rags. She reads the Wall Street Journal religiously, and she sits there and reads the comment section under each article. So that is an old lady thing that she does. Actually, that's more of an old man thing, the Wall Street Journal. Question 22. Do you have a hidden talent? I think it's what I mentioned before. I am a pretty darn good guitar player, if I may say so myself. I'm also a singer, although I wouldn't be able to sing for you right now because I'm just getting over COVID. But I was a singer and a songwriter, and so that is probably my hidden talent because a lot of people don't know that I am a talented guitar player. It's one of the things I'm good at. Question number 23, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So this one kind of ties into the whole, what is your dream job question? What was your dream job? What is it? But as I've mentioned before, at this point, my wife and I are actually writing a fantasy novel. We finished pretty much a rough draft and we sent it to one agent. And I won't mention who the agent is, but that agent sent a really nice note back to us, and the agent gave us a bunch of things to work on and fix and has actually asked us to resubmit to him. So my hope is to one day become a fantasy novelist with my wife and to work from home. That would be amazing. Okay, question number 24, share an item and tell us its significance. Okay, so this one is show and tell, and that item is, I will be right back. My most prized possession is this thing, this guitar right here. This is my Fender American Telecaster. It is beautiful. I love everything about it. It is very expensive. Aside from my wife and probably my cats, this would be my next most valuable possession that resides in this house. I absolutely love this guitar. It sounds beautiful. It is perfect for playing the blues, for playing rock, for playing country music, for playing hard rock, anything that you can think of, jazz. This is an amazing guitar, and it is my baby. Okay, lastly, number 25. This isn't really a question, but it's the last one. Now tag some people. Okay, so we're going to go with a newer booktuber, a guy who's just starting his channel, and it seems to be growing, and he seems to be doing a great job on his channel, and I've enjoyed his videos. And so we're going to go with Theo from Mike's Books Discord. I'll link to his channel below. Theo, tag your it. And I'm going to tag 2 people. So we're also going to tag, I don't know if this guy's going to do it. We'll see if he will accept the challenge. I think a lot of his fans would love to see a video like this too. Let's have Christopher Rocchio do it. Tag Christopher Rocchio, you're it. I'm interested to hear, I will watch that video if you do it, Christopher. I'm really interested to hear your answers to a lot of these questions. So thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe. Catch up with me on Patreon. Tip your starving booktuber. Catch up with me on Goodreads, Facebook, and until next time, happy reading.